Everyone, please rise as President Price, Dean Kelly, and members of the Sanford faculty process that prepare to be celebrated as the Sanford School of Public Policy Class of 2021.
Please be seated. What a wonderful emotional moment it is to see you all. To see you all. I am so delighted to welcome you to the 2021 graduation of the Sanford School of Public Policy. Welcome to your families and your friends and supporters who are tuning in and watching us on television. We're going to celebrate a class of students graduating from Sanford, over 300 students this year, of which 108 are graduate and professional students. You'll be getting degrees in the Masters of Public Policy and the International Masters of Environmental Policy, and you'll be getting degrees in the Masters of International Development Policy and in Public Policy doctorates. But you will all be graduating with a degree in grit this year. So welcome. When we are done with this ceremony, you will be joining a community of over 8,000 Sanford alums around the world in over 100 different countries. So we're so impressed with you. You have been absolutely unstoppable this year, and we give you our congratulations on this moment. So let's hear it for the class of 2021. A special welcome to President Price, who is going to give some commencement remarks in a little bit. But before that, I want to just share some thoughts with you, because often we have alums with us during this time, and we couldn't have them. And so I reached out to some of our alums and asked them to share some of their wisdom with you for this ceremony. And I asked them a question that I'm also going to ask you today. And I want you to answer this question today. And that is, what is your truth? And by that I mean, what is the compass in your soul that gives you direction when you're lost? What is it you know in your heart of heart matters? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning? What is it that propels you to keep going when you are exhausted? What is your truth? You know, I think over this last year, we've all had a lot of time to reflect more than normal. I remember almost 14 months ago when we went into lockdown, walking the hallways of Sanford and turning out all the lights. I went into every classroom and turned off the light. I made sure every hallway was dark. And over the months, I missed it. In the summer, I came in sometimes to take walks on campus. Sometimes I stopped by the building to get a drink from the water fountain. And there was one time there was a deer and a fawn in between the buildings. So different it was. And I really reflected a lot on the absence of the students, and when they started to come back just so quietly, when they would emerge from a classroom, I would just stop and savor your voices. We've had so much time to reflect during this year. And so I want you to think about what your truth is. But first, I want to share some of the thoughts from the alums whom I asked. But also, underneath your chairs, you will find a whiteboard and a pen. And I'm actually going to ask you to take your whiteboard and as I talk a little bit more, I want you to think about what your truth is. And I want you to write it down. And I'm going to ask you later to share it. So the 5 alums I asked were pretty remarkable people. The first person I asked was Sekou Koland. He's a 99 alum. He's the managing director of JP Morgan, where he launched the Hardship Fund to help keep financially distressed students in school during COVID. And he also launched Advancing Black Pathways in JP Morgan, which contributed to the firm making a $30 billion commitment to close the racial wealth gap. I asked Katie Harold, who is a PhD student here and now is a tenured associate professor at Syracuse University's Maxwell School, and she's worked on strategies that the Egyptian NGOs used during the 2011 uprising and shared her findings with governments about how to stimulate democracy-fighting organizations around the world. I asked Edison Jacourdi, who's an MIDP alum. He's a former World Bank consultant, and now he's the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy, Employment, Trade, Industry, Business, and Strategic Investments for the government of Kosovo. I asked Maya Ashmeri, another MPP alum who is the president and CEO of Society for Science and the Public, but before that, she spent 17 years founding and growing the Global Fund for Children, which has given away more than $40 million to touch the lives of over 10 million children around the world. Finally, I asked Michael Sorrell, another MPP alum who, after working in the Clinton administration, took over as president of the Paul Quinn College and turned the football field famously into a farm to address the food desert problem around the college and to establish a new culture of urban working colleges. These alums have demonstrated just how powerful a Sanford degree is. They have touched the lives of millions of children. They have helped lead their countries. They have helped address the racial wealth gap. These are the ones who have gone before you, and these are the truth they shared with me to share with you. Sekou said, "Each day I remember that I'm living out the legacy of the ancestors that came before me. And I'm reminded of the responsibility I have to help create a better future for the generations after me. The small daily decisions we make can positively impact the lives of those around us. And if we all do our part, we have the ability to create real change for the better. Katie said, "My truth is discovery." As a Sanford-trained researcher, I have the great privilege to discover new meanings and manifestations of social phenomena and connect those discoveries to contemporary policy challenges. Edison noted that his truth is a derivation of two important philosophies from Anthony Gramsci and Jean-Paul Sartre. He said, "I'm pessimistic because of the intellect, but I'm optimistic because of the will. This is due first to humans' past and present repetitive mistakes, but the latter, optimism, is due to my firm interest and belief in human progress, not on what we were or are, but on what we can become." Maya, her truth is, service is the purpose of life. I have witnessed horrors in the lives, in the world of children that drives me to a fanatical obligation to make sure that children and young people are given the opportunities they need to become productive, caring citizens of the world. Finally, Michael Sorrell shared, "My truth is simple. People deserve better. They deserve lives filled with hope, dignity, joy, and the ability to do simple things simply. They deserve to know that their next will always be better than their now." These are powerful statements from our alums, and the theme is striking. All are united in the belief of a better future and to help our fellow human beings. So, dear students, you will follow in their footsteps. So what is your truth? I invite you to take your boards and hold them up. Stand up and show the people around you, just by turning, what is your truth? Please, go ahead and stand up. Go ahead if you're in the first row and turn around and just show them to the people around you. You can also take a photo of them with your phone and you can post them on our hashtags, PopPol 2021, Duke 2021. That would be great. Thank you so much. You can sit again. I also have a truth. I realized over the year, as I walked those halls of Sanford, those quiet halls, that our school is not the building. Our school is the people. And I realized just how much I thrive on empowering others around me, how much I get energy from our students, how much I get energy from seeing what other people are accomplishing, that my purpose in life is to help others shine their light. And therefore, my purpose is you. I started this address by talking about when I turned out the lights, but I realized that the lights never actually truly went off. That the lights are you. And as your dean, I'm so proud to be sending you into the world, to shine your lights, not on yourself, but to shine your truth, to create a path for others and help others be better. And so I congratulate you on your new journey, and I hope you'll always carry your truth in your heart. Thank you. Thank you. I'm now pleased to introduce our president, Vincent Price, who is Duke's 10th president and celebrating, I think, the conclusion of his 4th year as president of Duke University. He's a leading global expert in public opinion and social influence and political communication. But although president of Duke is a pretty fancy title, actually his far most important accomplishment and most prestigious title is as Walter Hines Page Professor of Public Policy and Political Science in the Sanford School. And so please join me at the podium, President Price.
Thank you, Judith, and to all the faculty and staff who've made this day possible. And congratulations, graduates. I'm so delighted to welcome you into the community of Duke alumni. In fact, I'm more than delighted to be here, since as a scholar of political communication and a faculty member at Sanford, this school's mission is uniquely dear to my heart. And please don't tell the other schools. Now, I know this is not the commencement ceremony you imagined when you started your programs and first arrived at Duke. But we've made it through this most abnormal year to this joyful day, and we've done it together. So why don't we give ourselves a round of applause for that? And how about this setting? I mean, is there any place more Duke than Cameron? Maybe the coffee line at Fleischman Commons, but this has to run a close second. And to be sure, there were moments in these past few months when it would have been ambitious for us to expect to be here together in person. One might even say, in the famous words of Terry Sanford, outrageously ambitious. In your time at Duke, you've no doubt had a chance to hear that phrase often used, outrageous ambition, used in many settings and contexts by faculty and administrators, in admissions and marketing, even for that matter in commencement speeches. It has become part of our identity as an institution, as fundamental to Duke as these banners that are hanging in the rafters. But for all of its rhetorical power, the notion of outrageous ambition doesn't capture what it was that President Sanford felt so ambitious about. His hopes for this institution and for its students. Now, thankfully for posterity and for future commencement speeches, President Sanford outlined these aspirations for Duke's educational mission in the very same address where he coined his more indelible phrase. Duke aspires, he said, with his characteristic blend of rhetorical flair and folksiness, Duke aspires to leave its students with an abiding concern for justice, with a resolve for compassion and concern for others, and with an ability to think straight now and throughout life. Concern for justice, compassion for others, and, though we might say it differently today, an ability to think straight. These core values have brought you to this moment. They've carried you through the countless hours of studying and dissertation writing, have supported you in the sacrifices and the challenges you've faced, particularly in this past 14 months, and will carry you forward to the extraordinary careers that you have ahead of you. In your pursuit of the Master of Public Policy, Master of International Development Policy, International Master of Environmental Policy, or Doctorate of in Public Policy, You first and foremost have demonstrated your extraordinary intellectual promise. That's what brought you here to Duke, what set you apart, and inspired the Sanford Admissions Committee to make the very wise decision to invite you to join our community. And you've certainly made good on that decision. In your research, in your intellectual pursuits, you've helped to transform our understanding of politics, foreign affairs, the future of technology, immigration, education, and environmental conservation. You've shared in the vibrant diversity of perspectives on our campus, one that I hope has enriched your lives here, broadened your own thinking, and inspired you to pursue new avenues of scholarship. The university, in rather utopian terms, has sometimes been described as a free marketplace of ideas. This is grounded in the notion that if all perspectives are given equal consideration, the truth will rise to the top. Of course, the free marketplace of ideas comes with its attendant pitfalls. For one thing, the marketplace of ideas has never actually been free, at least not in the sense of being equitable. Ideas promoted by people in positions of power often get more attention, while great thinkers from marginalized populations are, well, marginalized. A vital component of what President Sanford called thinking straight then is seeking out and amplifying the perspectives of those who may not be getting a fair or equal hearing. To borrow a phrase from the poet Robert Penn Warren, remember that even in a democracy, truth doesn't always live in the number of voices. Remain open to hearing the hard truths and help others tell their stories in ways that help us all better understand and serve each other. As we've seen in recent discourse, we're often tempted to forget that this openness to ideas, which seems so noble in the context of empowering marginalized voices, cuts both ways. My colleague Peter Salovey, president of Yale University, tells a story about the great civil rights icon, theologian, and legal thinker Pauli Murray, who spent her formative years here in Durham. Some of you may have seen the murals of Pauli Murray downtown or visited the Pauli Murray Center at her childhood home on Carroll Street nearby. When Murray was a student at Yale Law School in the early 1960s, a student group invited the racist, segregationist governor of Alabama, George Wallace, to visit campus for a debate. There was an understandable outcry, even in that less enlightened period of our nation's history, and the then president of the university was considering whether to demand that the students retract their invitation. He then received an unexpected letter from Pauli Murray, sharing an equally unexpected perspective. She argued that Wallace must be given the opportunity to share his views, however wrong, however vitriolic, because that very same notion of a free and equal exchange of ideas was foundational to the civil rights movement. Wallace must be allowed to speak, she wrote, because that has been the principle behind the enforcement of the rights of the Little Rock Nine, James Meredith, and others to attend desegregated schools in the face of a hostile community and threats of violence. The stakes are no lower in today's discourse. Many of our classmates, colleagues, and friends encounter speech that is discriminatory and threatening to them. We know that invocations of free speech are too easily and too often used as cover for attempts to exclude and demean. And free speech, as I've noted elsewhere, is similarly used to absolve those of us with editorial power of our responsibilities to exercise it wisely and justly. So it may seem like a manifestation of our compassion and our concern for others to silence those whose ideas we find wrong, hurtful, or even dangerous. Certainly, we might think, the surest way to protect the vulnerable is to prevent others from promoting ideas designed to anger, provoke, or cause pain. But there are several profound challenges in this thinking. First, the perceived degeneracy of the opposition must never release us of our responsibility to think deeply and critically about our own positions. Indeed, it's in defending our own ideas and responding with argument and debate that we both demonstrate the strength of our position and allow for continued growth and evolution in our own thinking. Robust debate is the surest path, if not quite to truth, then to its most reasonable human approximation. To borrow that Yale example, barring George Wallace from campus wouldn't have done a thing to advance the cause of civil rights. Allowing him to debate his ideas, on the other hand, would force him to face and respond to criticism in a way that might sharpen the thinking and the strategy of his opponents. We must refrain always from ad hominem attacks. We must support and defend those who are subject to hurtful speech and do all we can to prevent harm and promote our community standard of respectful engagement. But let's not deny those who promulgate controversial ideas their own right and responsibility to defend them. They will surely have these ideas, whether we let them be expressed or not. Attempting to silence them will not only fail, it would violate our longstanding commitment to open inquiry, which is at the foundation of research and discovery, of teaching and healing. We can and we will insist on decency and honesty, but our openness to a full diversity of ideas and beliefs enriches our work and helps make this a more engaged university and a more engaged world. It's not easy, but it is just. And most importantly, this is how we change minds and hearts, not by edict, not by threat, but by something that with our constant care and attention approaches respectful discourse among disagreeable parties. This, I believe, is what Terry Sanford meant by thinking straight. This charge carries with it a firm dedication to serving the unheard and an abiding concern for justice for the overlooked. And at the same time, it carries with it a deep intellectual honesty of recognizing that we may not have all the answers, that there is, in fact, a chance that we may be wrong. Wrong about the facts of the matter, and so perhaps wrong about what to do. We hold some truths to be self-evident. Most are not. Maintaining our commitment to justice and our humility in granting others the right to express what they believe, that is what lifts the work of policy research or law or writing into something more than an occupation, into a vocation. By contributing your extraordinary thinking and by working to create a marketplace of ideas that is truly free and equitable, you will be shaping a brighter, more engaged world for all of us. I know that you can do it. You have done it. You've demonstrated leadership throughout your time at Duke, and you're ready to bring your unique perspectives to a world that needs you now more than ever. And in so doing, by setting off in the spirit of service, compassion, and justice, you, the graduates of the Sanford School, You are the fulfillment of Terry Sanford's outrageous ambitions for this university. Congratulations and very best wishes.
Thank you, President Price, for reminding us of the importance of hearing all perspectives. And you didn't notice it because you were so focused on the students while you were speaking, but Flat Terry over there was doing a jig, I think, during your remarks. He was quite pleased. I hope that the students, that you all would take a chance to have a photo with Flat Terry. He's placed throughout and ready for action. And he doesn't need to be masked, so we're all set. I'm now pleased to be announcing the Stubbing Award, the 2021 Richard Stubbing Award for Teaching and Mentoring of Graduate Students. This award is special because it's nominated by current students and alums. And it really recognizes contributions to teaching in the graduate program and the mission of the graduate program, sort of the deep commitment to intellectual, professional, and personal development of our students. And this year's winner, whom I'm pleased to now invite up here to my side, is Doug Brooke. Doug, one of the Sanford students who nominated you wrote, "Professor Doug Brooke changed my life for the better by helping me make connections with individuals in the defense acquisition policy field. Professor Brooke gave me the space to explore my interest in defense acquisition as my thesis advisor. His budgeting class was one of the most memorable and eye-opening courses at Sanford. I would not be where I am today, working at the Pentagon in the Office of the Secretary of Defense, were it not for Professor Brooke's support and encouragement." Congratulations, Professor Brooke. I think the award will be in the mail.
Dean Kelly, thank you very much for those kind remarks. This is an unexpected pleasure. I was at my cottage in the Outer Banks already, planning to spend the summer at the beach, doing some writing, prepping for classes next year, when I received an invitation to attend graduation today. I think it was the promise of a ticket to something at Cameron that got me here. It is a distinct privilege for those of us who can teach and mentor here at Duke and in the Sanford School. We get to spend our days with young men and women who have committed themselves to lives of service and purpose. And they have entrusted us to help them along the way. What an awesome responsibility. But nobody does this alone. And I have a whole team of enablers. In fact, we all have a whole team of enablers. If I started to name them, I would miss some. But the academic program staff here, their default position is always, what do you need? How can I help you? What do you want? And that is so much appreciated by those of us who have to go into the classroom every day and take risks to meet your expectations. I'm not sure anybody should take an award for something that he's called to do or enjoys doing, but I'm going to take this one. So let me just close by saying thank you, thank you, thank you.
Congratulations, Professor Brooke. We'll now begin the recognition of our students, starting with the IMAP program. Students, please be sure that all your belongings are under your chairs so folks don't trip over anything. And I'm going to invite Professor Sarah Bomeo to the podium to recognize the graduates of 2 global master's programs, our IMAP program, and after that, the MIDP program. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Dean Kelly. So before I start, which is a huge privilege for me to be up here and introduce our graduates, I do have to say that even after all of my time in the classroom, when the dean gives you a homework assignment, you still do it. And so I wrote my truth down for all of you. Some of you may have heard it when I took over as the director of graduate studies for the MIDP program last year. Our communications director asked me what my theme was for the year. And it really didn't take me that long to think of it. And I came back with one word, adelante, forward, moving forward. All of you as you leave here are moving forward, and it has been our distinct privilege to be part of your time here. And so without further ado, I have the privilege to introduce the 2021 graduates of Duke's International Master of Environmental Policy program. This is a joint program of the Sanford School of Public Policy and the Nicholas School of the Environment. Graduates have gained expertise in the formation, design, application, evaluation, and impacts of public policies with a focus on providing solutions to environmental problems. Now we recognize the graduates of this program. Han Din, Changxi Li, Xin Li, Winshen Ong, Zhao Tong Peng, Xishang Sun. Congratulations, graduates. And because it's my lucky day, I also have the distinct honor to introduce to you the 2021 graduates of Duke's Master of International Development Policy program. These graduates come to Duke already having significant experience in the field of international development, seeking to hone their skills further and advance their work. During their time here, they have mastered an interdisciplinary curriculum designed to equip them as change makers to shape social, political, and economic development worldwide. We now recognize our Master of International Development Policy graduates, starting with those who are remote. Catherine Harris, Sang-hyuk Kim, Patricio Andres Leiva Irigoyen, Murat Ormanbayev, Merlin Yuna Nanyar. Congratulations to our remote graduates. And we now have the distinct pleasure to recognize our in-person Master of International Development Policy graduates. I believe you are supposed to rise now. Sorry, this is new for all of us this year. Yes? Excellent. Okay. All right. Peter Adayeye. Congratulations, Peter. Batul Asghari. Congratulations, Batul. Mohiuddin Basha. Congratulations. Arvak Badalin Drewek. Congratulations. Marco Antonio Cuevas Mesa. João Elmira da Silva Castillo. Romina Damini. Congratulations, Romina. Diego Hariono. Congratulations. Ola Hisham. Kalkadan Asifa Kabede. Congratulations. Mangi Lee. Congratulations. Jessica Maeda Hiri. Congratulations, Jessica. Alex McHale. Nwachuku Okafor. Congratulations. Jeffsky Puency. Congratulations. Mijo Piang. Congratulations, Mijo. Diana Ramirez. Congratulations. Narangi Soko. Congratulations. Khan Tayim Pila. Congratulations. Congratulations, graduates.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for serving as a director of our MIDP program, and I'm now pleased to welcome to the podium the director of our Masters of Public Policy program, Ken Rogerson.
Thank you, Judith. Grateful to be here today. We get all of 120 seconds to say something, and so a couple of things. This past year, one of the things that comes up when you're on relationship sites, right, is your friends will ask you, well, where did you meet this person? And you'll say, well, I met them online. And everyone goes, oh. And I think what we learned this past year is that you can be with people online and still build relationships, but that it only makes you want to see them more. And I am so grateful to see you today, and I'm sorry that a few of your peers can't join us. But I don't know, what's that old adage? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. I'm so grateful to see you and see your smiling eyes, if not teeth. One more thing, and I'm going to take Sarah's lead. My truth is this: it takes a village. And I could not be here today without the people around me, and I echo Doug in that. Okay, minus Mitch. But Janelle and I love you. But on behalf of the program, our village, plus you as part of our village, I want you to know that you belong to us. Oh, look, I can see myself, and it's not very good. Thank you. I suppose if I have something in my teeth, none of you will tell me. On behalf of our village, you belong to us, but we belong to you forever. And we hope that you always feel that, and you'll always realize that this is a home for you that you can come back to. All right. We also have a few in absentia. We have a few who couldn't join us today, and we honor them as well. Most we have pictures of, and we'll acknowledge them. So for the graduates of the Master of Public Policy, we honor the following pictures of your classmates. Maurice Bernard, Anna Dye, Patrick Duffy, Susanna Figueroa, Nick Fiore, Xinji Huang, Yi Jin, Zuma Jin, Tess Königsmark, Brian Lim, Nicole Lococo, Sarah McClafferty, Jay Miller, Mandy Sharishef, Simon Warren, and unfortunately without a picture, Xinyang Michelle May. We're sorry they couldn't join us today, but they do belong. All right, one row at a time. Watch Janelle at the end, and she'll let you know when to come up. And for those who are in person, we honor you today as well. We're grateful for the MIDP for blazing the trail, so we know exactly what to do. Daniel Adams. Jen Alexander. Jessica Au. Jacqueline Ayala. Andrea Barnes. Michael Bennett. Matthew Boyle. Picture. Ryan Carricker Ford. Maisha Chowdhury. Flavia Conern Diaz. Alina D'Angelo Campos. Katie Dukes. Ariana Fisher. Emma Foley. Lee Foster. And I wanted to point out what Lee is holding and others are holding in our dual degree students. Emma Frentz. Jess Garcia. Aaron Gureng. Elizabeth Graff. Hannah Gronke. Ashley Hawks. Sally Hodges Koppel. Sarah Hoffman. James Horn. Madeline Hubricks. Chase Johnson. Cynthia Joseph. Evan Katz. Abraham Kenmore. Adil Khan. Matthew Landers. Lisa Rebecca Lane. Reg Ledesma. Aaron Lauder. Hector Luna Iguines. Natasha Luther. Jasmine Masand. Alan McConaughey. Jane McDermott. Janie. Liam Miranda. Rosalind Moser. Alex Nichols. Njideka Ofaleta. Myra Parsonet. Patrick Rochelle. In case you're wondering who's next, just look up. James Settles. Michael Sheehy. Hannah Silver. Zachary Silverman Guffey. Allison Sokol. Samuel Spiker. Have you ever called you Samuel? Lucas Stewart. Mary Grace Stone King. Tyler Strobel. Jamie Tebow. Mariana Veraveto. And Rafi Weinberg. Congratulations to the MPP graduating class of 2021.
Thank you, Ken. If you look under your chairs, you'll all find a pair of socks like Rafi's. It's now my pleasure to welcome to the podium Subrendu Patanayak, who is the director of our PhD program. Subrendu.
I can take this off, right? Okay. Sorry, I forgot my word. So firstly, I want to just congratulate everyone here. Often I'd be teaching all of you MPPs, so you'd certainly pass through Econ 811, but that hasn't happened in a few years, and so congratulations to everyone. As you walk past here, you can probably envision, as Vince mentioned, Zion Williamson thundering a block right down here, somewhere around here, right? So that's exactly what you just achieved. It's incredible to pull that off in this crazy year, and the same for MIDP and the IMAP folks who were on screen up there. I did my homework as well. That's my word. You probably have seen it on my door outside. But in many ways, public policy is all about that. And you will wake up every morning thinking about what you can do to make the world a better place. And my job is to talk briefly about the public policy PhD program. As you've noticed, these students are sitting right up front, closest to the stage, but they have to wait and wait and wait till the very end. And so, last but not the least, it's my honor and privilege to introduce the Public Policy PhD program, and in about 45 seconds, summarize what? That's what I was given, like 2 minutes to talk about the PhD program. A journey that spans 5, 6, 7 years, where you take on enormously complicated problems. You bring that kindness to issues that compel you to change the world, to make it a better place, but at the same time, bringing sharp intellect, really hard work, and to do that with grace and grit and gumption. That same, audacious, outrageous ambition. So it's my pleasure to acknowledge and honor the public policy PhD students. I think you know the drill, you walk there, but it's slightly different. The only reason this is different is each of our student has an advisor or a faculty that they work closely with, and they will get to speak a little bit about them before, since they waited so long. Yeah. So we are going to be acknowledging first Francisco Meneses and Eric Wibbles is going to do the honor.
Okay, so 2 minutes is a really short amount of time to summarize a PhD career and a person. I'm going to try, but 2 minutes it is, Francisco. Okay, let me just tell you very briefly about his work. One of the great challenges of our time is social mobility. As we see these yawning gaps between income groups, it gets harder for people at the bottom to move up. And the thing is, in terms of what we know really precisely about this, we know it from a small number of countries that have decades of income statistics. And that means we don't know much about social mobility in most of the world. So Francisco comes to me a couple of years ago and says he has individual level student data, 8th grade scores for millions of students in Chile. Not just that, he has which high school they went to, he has their GPA, he has their graduating standardized test scores, he has income tax data on how they do in the labor market, and he also has information on their parents, their income, and what they did. So this is just like, I almost fell on the floor with this. So he does amazing work to really precisely estimate the structural advantages that a small few have and the structural obstacles that a great many face. And I think one of the really nice things about his work is that he shows that there are paths forward, paths up. So I think there's a very hopeful piece of his work. For this excellent work, he's going to be an economist at the World Bank, where he's going to do zillions of interesting and fabulous things. I do want to say, so let me just tell you one thing about him as a person. So I'm going to tell you two, sorry. He is a human version of LinkedIn. He had such an interesting career before he came to Duke. He knows everyone. Zambian someone, IDB someone, it's just amazing. And he's very generous with those connections. The last thing I'll say is, this is one persistent man. I mean, Brendu mentioned how difficult it is to get a PhD. I think pushing on the frontiers of knowledge is always isolating and hard. And for you international students, I think it's been an especially hard year because you've been away from your families. And well, this guy has had, he's been dealt maybe even more of the tough stuff this year. And here he is. So please join me in congratulating Francisco Meneses.
Our next student is Emily Rains, and it's also Eric Wibbles, and that's why we were doing a little tango out here.
Okay, let me briefly describe Emily's work. Many of you might not know that probably a majority of the world's planet lives precarious lives in what's called the informal sector. That means instead of having a regular job, you look for occasional work when you can find it. You get paid maybe daily, maybe weekly, maybe not at all. And this insecurity is associated with all other sorts of precarity. It could be that the cops are going to give you a hard time. It could be that you have a home, but who owns your home is really ambiguous. And this is something that we also don't know an awful lot about and is a huge issue in the world. And Emily takes on this from satellite images all the way down to interviewing the very poorest in urban India. And her work is, I think, really, it's remarkable. It speaks to the strategies of women and households and whole neighborhoods in terms of how they deal with this precarity. Let me just say, okay, and by the way, the dissertation is good enough that it just won the prize for the best dissertation in the political science department, and for all of her work, she's going to be a assistant professor of political science at LSU. Such a hard job to get. Let me tell you one personal thing about Emily. It's very hard because you get attached to these people that you work with for so long. So she is so kind and so positive, and yet so anytime there's graduate recruitment, I always ask her to talk with potential incoming students because she's just such a positive force in the world. If you don't know her, you should go meet her after the ceremony is done. But you should also know that inside of all that kindness is a stone cold killer. The normal thing as a PhD student and as an academic is you have false starts and you get stuck and you get frustrated and and I'm sure that happened to her at some point in some minutes, but in general, she was just incredibly productive and linear in carving out a professional path that has been really amazing and has been a joy to see. So please join me in congratulating Emily Rains.
Our next faculty introducer is Steve Sexton. He has two students as well, one of whom is in Saudi Arabia, so he can't be here. There were some visa challenges, so he'll be on screen, but we have Chingran Lee to start with.
Thank you. Chingran has been a very conscientious member of our community in Sanford and in the university program in environmental policy. She has exhibited a real knack for the interdisciplinary research for which Duke is known, and this positions her well to contribute solutions to pressing challenges confronting society. In just part of her dissertation research, she informs an urgent challenge confronting policymakers in the US and around the world, that is, how to transform the transportation sector from one that is fueled by fossil fuels to one that is powered by the sun and wind and other low-carbon energy sources. That is, how do we convert a fleet of internal combustion engines to one of electric vehicles? Contrary to the assertions of prominent economists and policymakers, Chingran shows in her dissertation that we should promote electric vehicle adoption, that is to say, subsidize it, even before the electricity grid is clean enough to render the electric vehicles less polluting than internal combustion engine vehicles. Chingran observes that vehicle fleets are comprised of long-lived durable goods, so they don't turn over overnight. Technology diffusion is slow, and electric vehicle adoption is characterized by network externalities, reflecting the fact that investments in electric vehicles and the charging stations that power them are mutually dependent. And so for these reasons, she shows that optimal policy should subsidize electric vehicles before they're cleaner than internal combustion engine vehicles if the electricity grid is expected to get less pollution intensive, that is to say cleaner, over time. This is because policymakers would accept the incremental pollution caused by the EVs in the short run in order that in the long run, when the electricity grid renders them cleaner than internal combustion engine vehicles, there is a larger fleet of these electric vehicles to produce these emissions reductions. Because the electricity grid in many places around the world, and indeed in parts of the US today, renders electric vehicles more polluting than internal combustion engine vehicles, her insight is broadly relevant. She politely but firmly refutes the policy implication of a paper published in the preeminent economics journal. And so she stands poised to have immediate and important impact on environmental and climate policy around the world. What more could we ask of a graduate? Ching-Ron will embark this fall on a tenure-track faculty position in the business school at Clarkson University. Congratulations, Dr. Lee. So let me also say a few words about Hussein al-Shamasi, whose public spiritedness made him also a valued member of our scholarly community here at Duke. And so we're saddened that travel restrictions related to COVID have precluded him from returning to Durham this week from King Fahd University in Saudi Arabia, where he's already begun a tenure-track position there. Let me honor Hussein by briefly describing the significance of part of his dissertation research. Forgive me, this will have the flavor of an economics lesson, but it'll be brief. Efficient pollution control policy weighs the costs of regulatory compliance against the benefits of pollution reductions. As is familiar to our faculty and all of our graduates here, there's a conundrum, though, that we can't directly infer how society values air pollution reductions or improvements in air quality. This is because we can't observe people making these types of purchases, that is, say, buying air quality in the marketplace. You can't walk into Harris Teeter or Target and buy air quality. And so economists have resorted to indirect ways of inferring the valuation of air quality improvements by observing how individuals change their behaviors to avoid exposure to air pollution as levels of air pollution vary. Many papers published in top economics journals have studied the valuation of air pollution and air pollution control policy in this way. In his dissertation, Hussein notes that these studies assume that changes in this so-called averting behavior reflect the actions of agents who are perfectly attentive to changes in ambient air quality. And yet, a broad literature across economics and psychology demonstrates that individuals have limited attention and limited cognitive capacity when they undertake decisions, and therefore they may underreact to changes in characteristics that are less salient, including potentially characteristics like ambient air quality. And so this is the hypothesis that Hussein sets out to test in part of his dissertation. He wants to compare individual averting behaviors on days that are of equally low air quality, but across which the salience of air pollution is likely to vary, for instance, due to media attention to wildfires in neighboring counties or due to increasing conversations about air pollution on social media. If salience is important to these averting behaviors, then we would expect, conditional on the air quality, that averting behavior increases on days for which air pollution is more salient. This is precisely what Hussein finds, and so he demonstrates that these studies in prominent economics journals are understating society's valuation of clean air, and thereby they are under-recommending intervention to improve air quality. With research like this, Hussein has a promising academic career of great societal importance before him. Congratulations, Hussein.
I was trying to take a picture of Hussein on the screen to send it to him. That's probably the only time he's going to be on the Cameron banner up there. I'm sure it's going to make him really happy. And so with that, we come to our last PhD. That's Sarah Cross. And to introduce Sarah and present her is Don Taylor.
So I must say, it is just a pleasure to say a few words about Dr. Sarah Cross. Sarah is a social worker who had a career working in hospice, which is an approach to helping people die. Most human beings try to get as far away from difficult, intractable problems as fast as they can. Social workers go towards problems like iron goes to a magnet. And Sarah did that as a social worker with compassion and expertise. More than any other PhD student that I've worked with, she came to do a PhD desperately focused on how to help the way people die in the United States. That's a topic that's easy to say, let's think about it later. I don't want to think about that. That's boring. That's depressing. But it's actually the only thing that every one of us in this room will inevitably do one day. Sarah's dissertation focused on live discharge. And so you might say, I thought hospice is a place where folk go to die. In fact, there's been a rapid increase in live discharges from hospice in the United States over the past 15 to 20 years. It's a super tricky issue to understand from a research and a policy standpoint, because somebody live discharging from hospice could be a good thing, meaning maybe someone changed their mind. Just because they decided they wanted hospice at one point doesn't mean they can't later change their mind, so that could be a good outcome. But Sarah's experience also knew that sometimes people were live discharging because of a mismatch between the care delivered and what people and families really needed. And she began to understand that the Medicare hospice programs, public policies, basically made those mismatches at least somewhat inevitable. So Sarah came here thinking, and has done so, that she wanted to do work in this area. She has done great work. She's going to be going to do a postdoc at Emory in the medical school. And normally when you have a PhD student who's about to go off, the chair says something to the effect of, gosh, one of the things you've really got to work on, Sarah, in the next step is becoming a more independent scholar and not, just working with your dissertation committee and whatnot. Sarah has a remarkable publishing career already. She has a first authored paper in the New England Journal of Medicine. I have one of those in 26 years, and she had one before, she got her PhD. So she has developed a network of like-minded clinicians who are interested in policy and just is well on her way. And when I think of sending Sarah out, I think of her fixing up the Medicare program, so when I become eligible, the care and policies will be better aligned. So congratulations, Sarah.
With that, we are going to close the PhD section. I just wanted to clarify that I think you would have misintroduced me as the Director of Graduate Studies. I'm really the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. So all of you who have conquered Hogwarts, there are dragons to slay out there. Just go do it. Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you, Subrenda. We can certainly use all the magic we can get around here. But the magic today is really our graduates. So please, another round of applause for our graduates. You are now permanent members of the Sanford School alums, and we're so glad to have you be in our family. There's so many big public policy problems out there that await you, but you are ready for them because you have acquired all the tools you need to succeed. So I'm going to, in a second, ask you to rise and stand and be recognized, but I want to do that by reminding us how important that Terry Sanford said it was that our students, he said, stood for something. You have to stand for something, he says, even if it defeats you. You have to stand for something. You've all written down your truth. I know you will go out in the world and you will stand for important things, and you will stand for the truth in your own heart. And so I ask you, with the words of Terry Sanford, to take a stand. But please remain standing, because we can't run around and hug each other and celebrate the way we normally do. And we are going to be going out, and once you go out, we'll try to gather at the Caveville area. We can celebrate there. But before that, we want to celebrate a little bit inside here too, and have some joy. And so we're going to have a little bit of music and just show the joy, okay? So hit it. Win, win, win. And you have won today. We're so proud of you. And we are going to prepare for the recessional. And after the recessional, please all gather out in the Caveville area. Keep at a safe social distance. After the faculty has left the building, students, please exit at the south entrance. Congratulations, graduates.